everyone. I'm really glad to be here to share my experience in optimization of CT and PET-CT. First, I would like to quickly disclose that I'm presently working in the private sector at Radioprotection Inc., which do radiation safety work in nuclear and medicine, but I'm also chair of the Dose and Imaging Working Group at the Canadian Radiation Protection Association, board member of the APIBQ, and mainly former director of the CCR, which was and the coordinator of the PET-CT and CT provincial tour. So, what I will be presenting today, first I will talk about the context of doses due to medical exposure in Canada and Quebec. I will talk about our dose survey and our optimization task force, present our results and our recommendation. But before doing that, and to keep your attention, I would like to present first a teaser and then a few basic information on the Canadian situation. So the teaser, our results. Basically what we were able to achieve during our provincial tour. As you can see, we went from 90% to 27% average dose reduction across the province, depending on the protocols and the modality. And that's what we were. I will give more detail later on. Geography 101, Canada, as large as Europe, but only 5% of in terms of population, so we're a much smaller crowd. It's a confederation with 10 provinces and 3 territories, and all our hospitals and the X-rays are under provincial regulation, which is important because there's a large difference between in terms of management in the different provinces. The province of Quebec is the largest province in the country, and it's twice the size of the France, and it's a little bit more than 1/5 of the Canada population. In terms of CT and PET-CT, in Quebec we do have 29% of the CT in Canada and 41% of the PET-CT. So if we go to the context of dose due to medical exposure, as you can see, the level, the dose due to medical imaging in Canada is around the level of Australia and France, just between, just to give you an idea. Far from our cousin, the US, our neighbor, the USA. In terms of PET-CT, as you mentioned, there was a large increase over the years in terms of dose to patient. In Canada, we have seen like an increase by a factor of 4 between the 90s and 2007. And as you can see here, the dose per capita in Quebec is even higher than the dose, the Canadian dose. If we look at what happened in terms of usage of CT in Quebec, over the past 10 years, actually the number of exams doubled in total number, but also the number of CT exams per patient increased significantly. In nuclear medicine, in terms of number of exams, we haven't seen the same level of increase, but what is important here is that we have seen a major increase in terms of number of exams per patient, which has a huge impact in the dose, of course. In terms of specifically the PET-CT exam, if you look at the bottom here, you can see that between 2015 and 2017, we had about the same number of PET-CT across the province, but for the same period, the number of exams increased by 20%. And we're doing almost half of the PET-CT exam in Canada, even though I remind you we're 1/5 of the population. And you can see an IRSN study that show you that the PET-CT is the largest contributor in nuclear med dose. So our dose survey, what happened is that around 2008, the health professionals expressed their concern about the increase of dose in CT, and we decided to, actually the APA-BQ conduct a survey, a provincial survey in CT, and the conclusion of that survey was that half of the dose, half of the dose in the medical, in terms of medical exposure, was due to CT. And we observed that there was a wide variation of protocol across the province, and conclude that there was a real need to optimize those protocols to lower the dose. What was done is that the Ministry of Health, following the survey, published a dose reduction action plan and create the Provincial Center of Expertise in Clinical Radiation Safety. And the mandate of this center was to assist in the implementation of the dose reduction plan, to provide support, direct support to hospital, and recommend and promote best practices. The CCR was created as an independent group of experts, and the key word here was that we got involvement, active involvement of all stakeholders to create this approach. Everybody agreed that we need to improve radiation safety to patients, and they all decided to work together. And like Ministry of Health, University Health Center, Health Professional Association were all involved in the CCR. The structure was quite unique too. We decided to have a very light structure with a few permanent team of 5 people, no more, but a lot of collaborators that were working with us part-time. They were all coming, most of them actually, were coming directly from the health network, and they were involved on a needed basis. They were borrowed by the hospital. And the goal here was to make sure that all the experience and the knowledge acquired within the task group would go back within the hospital that agreed to participate to that task force. And one element that facilitated the knowledge sharing was that we decided that there would be no hierarchy in between in the team, so everybody was at the same level, and that way everybody feel free to express their point of view without being restrained. Or in terms of since we were in, like, the objective was to implement a dose reduction plan, we figured that optimization, and as it was recommended in the survey recommendation, the optimization would be our way to do it. But we have many challenges with that. There's the evolution of the technology and the commitment of the stakeholders, not only the one that were participating directly to the CCR, but the stakeholder within the hospitals, including senior management and authorities. And the multidisciplinary collaboration was really another important aspect to get that to get that from everybody. And to facilitate, to ensure that our result would be measurable and comparable from between one hospital to another, since we had over 100 hospitals to visit, we decided to develop a standard approach for our optimization process. As you can see here is the standard way of presenting a process, but the important thing is the art of it was this multidisciplinary collaborative approach, and nobody was forced to go to participate, but we pick leaders in their, in each of their fields to make them work and to encourage people to collaborate. So it was really, everybody was really proactive in it. The mission of our provincial tour was really to initiate the dose optimization process, not to do it and it's finished, but just to initiate something that at the end of the day, the hospital would take ownership of and would continue to do on their own locally with our support when they need it. In terms of concrete objectives of the provincial tour, our goal was ALADA, not ALARA. Everybody know ALARA? ALADA is as low as diagnostically achievable. And our motto was really to lower the patient dose as long as we preserve the clinical, the diagnostic quality of the image. And that was always the message that we present to the hospital every time we visit them. And what we were achieving during these visits specifically was we were doing quality assurance assessment in terms of device as well as practices, starting the dose optimization, but also providing some support and some guidance, doing some sort of training on site with the local team. That's the methodology. Here you have the methodology of the tour. It's really a 2-day visit with data before, we picked data before, but the important thing is that every day, first thing in the morning, we met with the local team first day to really explain carefully what we were planning to do during those 2 days and to answer all their questions and to remind them that we were a team of experts, not a team of inspectors or regulators, but we were there. They had with them the best experts in the province to help them improve radiation safety to patients. And that way it helped, it facilitated the, I would say, it facilitated the appropriation of the process, the collaboration. And during this first day, we did performance assessment of the equipment, but also clinical analysis of real CT case, around 30 to 40 cases that we were analyzing image to see the quality and to evaluate all that. On the second day, with all the data that we acquired during the first day, we met with the team. We were meeting with the team and ready to present our observation and recommendation, but also new protocols, new optimized protocols. And with the agreement of the radiologist that was involved in the visit, a local radiologist, we start right after the meeting clinical cases with real patients. And after each case, we review the image with the radiologist to ensure that the quality required for their diagnostic was there. And we go on along the day for the various protocols that we were optimizing. Sometimes we were optimizing up to 3 protocols in some visits. And at the end of the day, we provide a report, a written report to the local team, but also to the Director General of the hospital. So everybody would know what we were able to achieve during that. And following the visit, we also asked the collaboration of all the radiologists, so they would provide feedback on the new protocol to ensure that they accept the new protocols. So here's the, during the visit, we had the CCR team and the local team. And to give you, and in terms of CCR team, we made a rotation of the people involved to ensure that there was a transfer of expertise across the task force. In terms of results, in CT, we focus on head, chest, and abdomen pelvis standard protocol, and we did a few other protocol on request. Our results, as you can see, in average, were able to reduce from 19 to 20% in terms of dose, but in some cases, we were able to reduce even more than 50% of the dose to the patient. If we look at what happened during the optimization process, we did a second survey in 2014 with a Canadian survey this time. And with this survey, with the Quebec's results, we were able to see that we improved our DRLs between 2000 and 5 years by a factor varying from 10 to 18%, depending on the protocols. If we compare the Canadian DRLs for the 2014 result, survey and the Quebec's DRLs, you can see that, you can see the difference between doing an optimization process and not doing it, because there was no other province across Canada that was doing this type of process. And as you can see, the DRLs in 2014 for Canada were around the same level as the province of Quebec in 2008. If we look at other countries, as you can see here, results for head protocols, we improved, but we still need to work on those protocols to get a better optimization. You can see here for the chest protocol, we make great improvement, but there is still work. Abdomen pelvis protocol, also you have here the 2014 results. And chest, abdomen, pelvis, which was one of the other protocols that we changed, we optimized on request. In terms of PET-CT, we focused on full body standard protocol, but we not only optimized CT protocol, but also FDG injection. To achieve that, we'll look at guidelines. We had various guidelines that were available at the time, and at the DRLs available and the recommendation of various society. And what we did also, since we didn't have any data, we did a survey, a provincial survey for PET-CT, and we come up with the conclusion that there was a potential for optimization of about 30%. And as you can see here, you have the dose that were provided to our patient. What we were able to achieve in terms of FDG dose reduction, we were able to reduce an average of 26% of dose reduction, depending on the technology and the manufacturer, because there was some constraint between the model that we had to take into account. In terms of CT optimization, it was an average of 27% dose reduction that we were able to achieve, and the main point was that they were not using current modulation during their exam, and we teach them how to use current modulation, so it lowered the dose. So again, the slide that I showed you previously with a summary of the results and our recommendation. Okay. For the CT tour, the most frequent recommendation that we come up with were to implement low-dose follow-up protocols instead of doing regular diagnostic protocols for follow-up. We also remind them the importance of complying with scan range, not doing a bit more if it's not required. The positioning of the patient has a huge impact too, and the adequate use of bismuth shielding. And to ensure proper usage of bismuth shielding, we provide practical training on site as well as online training available for everyone. In terms of PET-CT, our most frequent recommendation was to remove metallic items to comply with injection condition and resting time. Again, the positioning and the scan range to respect, and the usage of the current modulation in CT. We provide, in each tour, we provide training to the local team, and one aspect is that in PET-CT in Quebec, it's nuclear medicine technologists that are doing PET-CT, and they don't have that much knowledge on the X-ray part. So we took an extra time to teach them how CT works and make them understand the particularity of the modality. In terms of achievement, like we were able, I think, to achieve a significant dose reduction to patient. We had really a great field collaboration with the local team. At the moment they understand that we were there to help them, the collaboration was there and it was easygoing. We improved the understanding of PET-CT and CT and raised patient awareness, as well as improve radiation safety practices. There's still need for improvement. Technology is changing and there's a regular need for education. But one thing that we haven't looked at, and I would have really liked to look at, is discuss with all the physicians, not only the radiologists, but everyone, about the justification principle. I think there we would be able to reduce again the dose to the patient by a significant amount. Other actions that were done by the task force, we published a quality control manual on CT, provide training on that. We revisit a few installations that we conclude that need additional help. And we organized a workshop on medical dose tracking a few years ago. Okay. And one sad thing is that this year the CCR closed, ceased operation. And that's sad, but that's life. Yeah. But one thing for sure is that even though we don't have this task force anymore, all the experts that work on that task force are still in the health network, working in their hospital, and all the local team that we've trained, that we collaborate with, are still there. And so the work can continue at a more local size, if I may say, not at a provincial size, but it's still feasible. And the informal network is still there. And for what I've seen, like, my colleague and I are trying to continue to promote the spirit of what was done in CECR by creating work group, organizing workshop, participating to panel or doing talks. But we all try to do it to make sure it won't, we will not go back to square one in 5 or 10 years. So, and if this approach interests like any country, any region, it's really a practical approach that works. So I would be more than pleased to see it continue elsewhere.